Have you ever found yourself in a room full of people, yet feeling completely alone? Have you ever laid in bed at night staring at the ceiling with 1,000 voices in your head, but not a single person to talk to? In those moments of silence, when the world fades away, who do you talk to? Most of us spend our lives seeking validation, scrolling through endless screens, waiting for a message, a call, a sign that someone out there is listening. But what if I told you the most important conversation of your life is not the one you have with the world, but the one you have with yourself? Tell me, when you are alone, do you speak to yourself with kindness, or do you fill your mind with doubt? Do you uplift your soul, or do you tear yourself down? Because the way you speak to yourself when no one is listening is the way you shape your future. If you tell yourself, I am not enough, life will mirror that belief. But if you say, I am powerful, I am worthy, I am unstoppable, the world will respond in kind. The way we speak to ourselves is the foundation upon which our entire life is built. Every thought, every whisper in our mind, and every silent conversation we have with ourselves shapes the way we perceive the world and, more importantly, how we see ourselves in it. Yet most of us don't realize how powerful our inner dialogue truly is. We go about our days reacting to external circumstances, believing that our happiness, success, and self-worth are dictated by the people around us, by the way they treat us, or by the things that happen to us. But the truth is, what matters most is not what the world says about us. It is what we say to ourselves when no one else is listening. Imagine a child learning how to walk. They take their first steps, stumble, fall, and get back up again. But what if, after every fall, they told themselves, I am not good enough, I will never be able to walk? Would they ever try again? Would they ever believe in their own ability to stand tall? Now take that same concept and apply it to your own life. Every time you have failed, every time you have been rejected, every time life has knocked you down, what did you tell yourself? Did you remind yourself that failure is just a stepping stone to success? Or did you convince yourself that you were not worthy, not capable, not enough? Our self-talk is like a seed planted in the soil of our minds. If we nourish it with words of encouragement, self-belief, and strength, it grows into confidence, resilience, and success. But if we feed it with doubt, negativity, and self-criticism, it becomes a barrier that stops us from reaching our full potential. Think about the moments in your life when you felt your lowest. Maybe you were overlooked for an opportunity you desperately wanted. Maybe someone you trusted hurt you. Maybe life took an unexpected turn, leaving you feeling lost and directionless. In those moments, what did your inner voice say? Did it remind you of your strength? Or did it echo the doubts and fears that others had planted in you? We often underestimate the power of our own words. If someone else told us, you are worthless, we would feel hurt, angry, and defensive. We might even cut that person out of our lives. But how often do we say those same words to ourselves without even realizing it? How often do we stand in front of a mirror and focus on every flaw instead of celebrating our strengths? How often do we allow a single failure to define us rather than seeing it as a lesson that brings us closer to success? There is a reason why some people rise above their circumstances while others remain trapped in a cycle of self-doubt and fear. It is not because they are luckier, smarter, or more talented. It is because they have mastered the art of speaking to themselves with kindness and belief. They have trained their minds to focus on possibilities rather than limitations. They have learned that the voice inside their head is the most influential voice they will ever hear, and they choose to make it one that empowers rather than diminishes them. Think about the most successful people in the world, athletes, entrepreneurs, artists, and leaders. Do you think they never faced failure, rejection, or moments of self-doubt? Of course they did. The difference is that instead of letting those moments define them, they used their inner dialogue to push forward. They told themselves, I am capable, I am strong, I will find a way. And that belief, that unshakable confidence in their own ability became the driving force behind their success. Now, imagine if you start started speaking to yourself the same way. Imagine if instead of saying, I am not good enough, you said, I am learning and I will get better. Imagine if instead of thinking, I always fail, you reminded yourself, every setback is preparing me for something greater. Imagine if every single day you spoke to yourself as if you were speaking to someone you love, someone you believe in, someone whose success you genuinely want to see. The mind is a powerful thing. It believes what we tell it repeatedly. If we tell ourselves we are weak, our actions will reflect that belief. If we tell ourselves we are strong, we will find ways to prove it to ourselves. This is not just about positivity or wishful thinking. This is about programming your mind for success, training yourself to see opportunities where others see obstacles, and choosing to believe in yourself even when the world gives you reasons to doubt. There will always be external voices, people who criticize you, circumstances that challenge you, and moments that test your resilience. But those voices do not define you. What defines you is the voice that speaks when everything else is silent. It is the voice that tells you to keep going when things get tough. The voice that reminds you of your worth when the world tries to diminish it. The voice that picks you up when you feel like giving up. So pay attention to the words you say to yourself. Catch the moments when you are being unkind, when you are feeding yourself doubt and negativity, and consciously choose to change that dialogue. Speak to yourself as you would to a dear friend. Encourage yourself as you would encourage a child taking their first steps. Remind yourself every single day that you are capable, worthy, and strong, because the conversation you have with yourself today will shape the reality you live in tomorrow. Every single day, we have conversations with ourselves that shape the way we see the world and the way we see ourselves. These silent whispers, the thoughts we repeat in our minds and the beliefs we hold on to, become the foundation of our actions, our choices, and ultimately our destiny. But the question is, are these words lifting us up or tearing us down? Are they making us stronger or holding us back? The words we whisper to ourselves in our darkest moments are the ones that write the story of our lives. Think about the last time you faced a challenge, a moment when everything seemed to be falling apart. Maybe you lost a job you worked so hard for. Maybe a relationship you thought would last forever ended. Maybe life threw an unexpected curveball and you found yourself questioning everything. In that moment, what did you tell yourself? Did you remind yourself that you have survived every difficult day before this one? Did you speak words of strength, courage, and resilience? Or did you allow the pain of that moment to define you, telling yourself that you were not strong enough, not smart enough, not worthy enough? Our words have power. They are not just fleeting thoughts, they are seeds planted deep in our minds. Every time we repeat a thought, we water that seed. And over time, it grows into a belief that shapes our reality. If we tell ourselves we are not good enough, we start to believe it. If we tell ourselves we are not capable, we begin to act in ways that prove that belief true. But if we tell ourselves that we are strong, that we are capable, that we are resilient, then no matter what life throws at us, we will find a way to rise. Imagine standing in front of a mirror and looking into your own eyes. What do you say to the person staring back at you? Do you see someone who is worthy of love, success, and happiness? Or do you see someone who is not enough? Too often, we are our own worst critics. We speak to ourselves in ways we would never speak to another person. We pick ourselves apart, focusing on every mistake, every flaw, every imperfection. We replay our failures over and over again, convincing ourselves that they define us. But they don't. A single moment of failure does not mean a lifetime of failure. A single mistake does not mean we are not worthy of success. Think about a child who is learning how to walk. The first time they try, they fall. The second time, they fall again. But do they ever stop trying? Do they ever say, maybe walking is not for me? No, because they have not yet learned self-doubt. They have not yet been conditioned to believe that failure means they are not good enough. They simply keep trying, falling, and getting up again until one day they take their first step, and then another, and another. The difference between a child learning to walk and an adult struggling with self-doubt is the story we tell ourselves. The child does not know failure as something permanent. They see it as part of the journey. But we, as adults, allow failure to define us. We let one rejection convince us that we are unworthy. We let one mistake convince us that we are not capable. But what if we changed the story? What if, instead of saying, I failed, we said, I learned? What if, instead of saying, I am not good enough, we said, I am growing? There is a story of a man who was told all his life that he was not smart enough. His teachers told him he would never succeed. His peers laughed at his dreams. Every time he tried something new, there was always someone there to remind him of his past failures. But one day, he realized that the voices of others did not have to become the voice in his own head. He decided that instead of listening to their doubts, he would create his own. Every morning, he would stand in front of the mirror and say, I am capable, I am strong, I will succeed. At first, it felt unnatural. He did not believe it. But over time, those words started to take root. He started to act as if they were true. He took risks. He failed. He learned and he grew. And eventually, he became everything they said he could never be. Not because he was smarter or luckier, but because he changed the story he told himself. Our words are like a compass, guiding us toward the life we believe we deserve. If we constantly tell ourselves that we are not enough, we will make choices that reflect that belief. We will settle for less than we deserve. We will stay in jobs that do not fulfill us, in relationships that do not value us, in situations that drain us. But if we tell ourselves that we are worthy, that we are capable, that we are strong, we will seek out opportunities that match that belief. We will walk away from things that no longer serve us. We will push through challenges because we know we are capable of overcoming them. There is a reason why some people thrive despite their circumstances, while others remain stuck. It is not about talent. It is not about luck. It is about mindset. It is about the conversations they have with themselves when no one else is around. It is about the belief they hold on to even when the world gives them every reason to doubt. The words we whisper to ourselves when no one else is listening become the loudest truths in our life. If we tell ourselves we are not good enough, that is the life we will create. But if we choose to rewrite that narrative, if we choose to speak to ourselves with kindness, belief, and unwavering faith, then no matter what challenges come our way, we will find a way to rise. Every person in this world faces struggles, but the difference between those who rise and those who remain stuck is the way they speak to themselves in moments of difficulty. You can be your greatest enemy or your greatest healer, and that choice is made not by circumstances, not by luck, but by the words you choose to believe about yourself. Every time you face rejection, every time you experience failure, every time you feel like giving up, there are two voices inside you. The one that tells you that you are not enough, and the one that reminds you of your strength. The question is, which one do you listen to? There are moments in life when everything feels like it's falling apart. The weight of expectations, disappointments, and fears feels unbearable. In those moments, some people break while others bend and come back stronger. The only difference is the internal conversation they have with themselves. Some people convince themselves that they are powerless, that their situation defines them, that they will never escape the pain. Others tell themselves that no matter how bad things are, they will find a way through. That decision, that mindset is what determines whether a person stays in the darkness or fights to find the light. Imagine a person who has just lost everything, a job they loved, a relationship they invested in, or a dream they worked for. In that moment, the world feels empty and self-doubt creeps in. Some people tell themselves, maybe I was never good enough. Maybe I am destined to fail. Maybe this is all I will ever be. That voice, that thought process keeps them trapped. It stops them from trying again, from rebuilding, from believing that something better is possible. But others take that same pain and turn it into power. They say, this is not the end of my story. I am capable of more. I will rise from this. And that single shift in self-talk creates an entirely different future. Think about a time in your life when you felt like giving up. Maybe it was after a heartbreak, a failure, or a betrayal. What did you tell yourself in that moment? Did you tear yourself down, convincing yourself that you were not worthy of happiness? Or did you remind yourself that you have survived every hardship before this one? The way you speak to yourself in your lowest moments determines whether you stay down or whether you get back up. A young girl once faced relentless criticism from the people around her. She was told she wasn't smart enough, not pretty enough, not talented enough. She started to believe it. Every morning she looked in the mirror and repeated those words to herself. And as she did, she began to shrink. She stopped trying, stopped dreaming, stopped believing in herself. But one day she realized that the voice of others did not have to be the voice in her head. She made a decision to change the narrative. Every morning she stood in front of the mirror and told herself, I am strong, I am enough, I am worthy. At first she didn't believe it, but over time those words took root. They became her truth. And as she changed the way she spoke to herself, she changed the way she showed up in the world. She started taking risks. She started believing in her abilities. And slowly she transformed into the person she was always meant to be. Not because the world changed, but because she changed the way she saw herself. Self-talk is not just a habit, it is a force that shapes your entire life. If you constantly tell yourself that you are not good enough, you will find ways to confirm that belief. You will settle for less than you deserve. You will hold yourself back from opportunities. You will live in fear of failure instead of chasing success. But if you start speaking to yourself with encouragement, kindness, and strength, you will begin to act accordingly. You will take risks, not because you are fearless, but because you believe in your ability to overcome challenges. You will push through difficulties, not because life is easy, but because you trust yourself to find a way forward. Many people wait for someone else to validate them. They wait for approval, for recognition, for someone to tell them they are worthy. But the truth is, no external validation can ever replace the belief you have in yourself. If you do not speak to yourself with confidence, no amount of praise from others will ever feel enough. And if you constantly doubt yourself, no amount of encouragement from the world will change the way you see yourself. True power comes when you stop waiting for permission to believe in yourself and start giving yourself that validation every single day. There are people who have faced unimaginable pain and still found a way to rise, not because they had fewer obstacles, but because they refused to let their pain define them. They chose to speak to themselves in a way that fueled their resilience. They reminded themselves of their strength, their potential, and their worth, even when the world gave them every reason to doubt it. They became their own source of motivation, their own reason to keep going, their own healer. If you have spent years criticizing yourself, doubting yourself, and holding yourself back, imagine what would happen if you did the opposite. Imagine if instead of saying, I can't, you told yourself, I will find a way. Imagine if instead of focusing on your weaknesses, you reminded yourself of your strengths. Imagine if every single day you spoke to yourself like someone you love. Would you still limit yourself? Would you still settle for less than you deserve? Would you still allow fear to control you? Life will always bring challenges. People will doubt you. Circumstances will test you. But the one thing you can always control is the way you respond to yourself. You can choose to be your biggest critic, or you can choose to be your greatest healer. The voice you listen to the most will become the reality you live. If you had a friend who constantly told you that you weren't good enough, that you were a failure, that you would never achieve your dreams, how long would you keep that friend in your life? Most people would walk away, refusing to let someone treat them that way. And yet, so many of us speak to ourselves with that same cruelty. We replay our worst moments in our minds. We criticize ourselves for our mistakes, and we doubt our abilities before we even try. The truth is, the relationship you have with yourself is the longest and most important relationship you will ever have. The way you speak to yourself determines whether you rise or whether you stay stuck. Think about a child who is learning something new. Maybe they are trying to tie their shoes for the first time. They struggle, they get frustrated, and they might even want to give up. Now imagine if in that moment the parent standing beside them said, "You're so stupid, you'll never get this right. Why do you even try?" How would that child feel? Would they ever want to try again? Probably not. But that's exactly how so many of us speak to ourselves. We make a mistake, and instead of showing ourselves patience, we say, "I'm such a failure." We face a setback, and instead of encouraging ourselves, we say, "Maybe I was never meant for this." The words we use matter. They shape not just our emotions, but our actions, our decisions, and the way we see ourselves. Now imagine if that same child had a supportive voice beside them, someone saying, "It's okay, you're learning, keep trying and you'll get it." That child would feel encouraged, and even if they struggled, they would keep going. The same is true for you. If you spoke to yourself the way you would speak to someone you love, how much more confident, capable, and strong would you feel? If instead of tearing yourself down, you built yourself up, how much more would you accomplish? Self-talk is one of the most powerful forces in our lives, and yet it is something most people don't even pay attention to. We are so used to our own thoughts that we don't stop to question whether they're helping us or hurting us. But if you take a moment to observe the way you speak to yourself, you might be shocked at how much negativity is buried in your own mind. Maybe you've spent years telling yourself that you're not smart enough, not talented enough, not worthy enough. Maybe you've let your failures define you instead of learning from them. Maybe you've convinced yourself that your dreams are too big, that success is for other people, that happiness is something you don't deserve. And all of that is because of the way you have been speaking to yourself. If you want to change your life, the first step is to change the way you talk to yourself. Instead of saying, "I can't do this," say, "I am learning how to do this." Instead of saying, "I always fail," say, "Every failure is a lesson that brings me closer to success." Instead of saying, "I am not enough," say, "I am growing into the best version of myself." It might feel strange at first. It might even feel like a lie. But over time, the words you repeat to yourself become your truth. They become the beliefs that shape your actions, and those actions shape your life. There is a reason why some people rise above their circumstances while others feel trapped by them. It is not because they never face challenges. It is because they refuse to let their inner voice be their greatest enemy. They refuse to speak to themselves in a way that keeps them small. They refuse to let doubt and fear control their destiny. Instead, they choose to be their own biggest supporter. They choose to encourage themselves, to remind themselves of their strength, to lift themselves up even when the world tries to bring them down. Think about the most successful people in the world. Athletes, leaders, innovators. They did not get where they are because life was easy for them. They got there because they mastered the art of self-belief. Before the world saw their greatness, they saw it in themselves. Before anyone else believed in them, they believed in themselves. And that belief, that inner voice of confidence, is what carried them through every failure, every setback, and every challenge. But the good news is, this is not something unique to them. This is something you can develop too. You can train your mind to be your greatest ally instead of your worst critic. You can choose to change the way you speak to yourself, to be kinder, more encouraging, and more patient with yourself. You can start treating yourself the way you would treat a dear friend, someone you genuinely want to see succeed, someone whose happiness matters to you. Someone you believe in. Because at the end of the day, the way you talk to yourself becomes the way you see yourself. The way you see yourself determines the way you act, and the way you act determines the life you create. There are moments in life when silence becomes the loudest sound, when the noise of the world fades and you are left alone with nothing but your thoughts. In those moments, Who do you become? What kind of conversation do you have with yourself? Do you remind yourself of your strengths, or do you dwell on your weaknesses? Do you encourage yourself to move forward, or do you chain yourself to the past? The words we whisper to ourselves in the silence shape the way we live, the way we love, and the way we rise from the hardships that life throws our way. So many people walk through life with a voice inside their heads that is not their own. It is the voice of past failures, of people who doubted them, of society telling them who they should be. It is the voice of every rejection, every disappointment, every moment they were made to feel like they were not enough. Over time, they stop questioning it. They start believing it. And without even realizing it, they become prisoners of a narrative that was never theirs to begin with. But there comes a moment when you must ask yourself, is this voice truly mine? Do these thoughts belong to me, or have I simply carried them for too long? Am I living according to my own beliefs, or am I still holding on to the doubts that others placed upon me? Because the truth is, if you do not control the voice in your head, it will control you. And if you do not choose what to believe about yourself, the world will choose for you. Imagine a person standing at the edge of a great opportunity, a job interview, a new relationship, a dream they have carried for years. But just as they are about to take that step, a voice in their mind tells them, "You're not good enough, you're not ready, you will fail." That voice is not reality. That voice is fear disguised as logic. And yet, how many people have allowed that voice to stop them? How many dreams have been abandoned, not because they were impossible, but because someone believed they were? Now imagine if that same person in that same moment heard a different voice, their own voice, but stronger, a voice that said, "You are capable, you are prepared, you are worthy of this moment." Imagine the difference that one shift in self-talk could make. Imagine how many opportunities would be seized, how many risks would be taken, how many lives would be changed simply because someone chose to believe in themselves instead of their fears. There is a story of a man who spent his entire life feeling like he was never enough. As a child, he was told he wasn't smart enough. As a young adult, he was told his dreams were unrealistic. Every time he tried to rise, there was always someone there to remind him of his past failures. And slowly, those voices became his own. He stopped trying. He stopped believing. He settled for a life that felt small simply because he had convinced himself that he was not capable of anything greater. But one day he met an old mentor who asked him a simple question. If you spoke to your best friend the way you speak to yourself, would they still be your friend? The man thought about it. He realized that if he spoke to others the way he spoke to himself, they would walk away, they would feel broken, discouraged, and unworthy. And yet he had been speaking to himself that way for years. It was in that moment that he understood he had been his own greatest obstacle. It was not the world that had held him back. It was not his circumstances. It was the words he had chosen to believe about himself. That realization changed everything. He began to rewrite the story he told himself. He replaced his self-doubt with self-encouragement. He caught himself when he started speaking negatively and replaced those words with strength. And slowly his life began to shift. He started taking chances again. He started believing in his abilities. He started walking into rooms with confidence instead of fear. Not because the world had suddenly become easier, but because he had become stronger. The way we speak to ourselves is either the weight that holds us down or the wings that allow us to rise. And the best part, we get to choose. We get to decide every single day what kind of voice we want in our minds. Do we want to be our own critic, or do we want to be our own greatest supporter? Do we want to carry the weight of past failures, or do we want to embrace the possibilities of the future? Do we want to keep believing in our limitations, or do we want to believe in our potential? There is no one in this world who will be with you through every single moment of your life except for you. No one else will hear every doubt, every fear, every dream, every hope the way you do. So why not be kind to yourself? Why not be the person who lifts yourself up instead of the person who tears yourself down? Why not choose to believe in yourself the way you would believe in someone you love? If you have spent years speaking to yourself with doubt, with fear, with criticism, then imagine what would happen if you did the opposite. Imagine if you spoke to yourself with kindness, with encouragement, with belief. Imagine if every morning you looked in the mirror and reminded yourself of your strengths instead of your weaknesses. Imagine if in every challenge you reminded yourself that you have overcome before and you will overcome again. Imagine if instead of waiting for someone else to validate you, you decided that your own belief was enough. The way you talk to yourself determines not just how you survive, but how you thrive. Every person experiences struggles, setbacks, and moments of doubt. But what separates those who rise from those who remain stuck is the voice they choose to listen to. Your mind believes what you repeatedly tell it, and the way you speak to yourself will either push you forward or hold you back. If you constantly feed yourself thoughts of fear and self-doubt, your actions will reflect that belief. But if you choose to speak to yourself with strength and confidence, you will begin to live that truth. Imagine two people facing the same difficult situation. One of them says, I can't do this. I'm not strong enough. I always fail. The other says, this is hard, but I will find a way. I have overcome difficulties before, and I will do it again. The situation itself does not change, but the outcome will be drastically different for each person. The one who speaks with doubt will hesitate, hold back, and possibly give up. The one who speaks with determination will keep going, push through, and eventually succeed. This is the power of self-talk. It shapes the way you approach life, the way you respond to challenges, and ultimately, the way your story unfolds. Think about a moment in your life when you felt completely defeated. Maybe you lost something you worked so hard for. Maybe someone you trusted let you down. Maybe life took an unexpected turn and you were left feeling lost. In that moment, what did your inner voice say? Did it tell you that you were strong enough to get through it? Or did it convince you that you were not enough? The words we say to ourselves in these moments become the foundation of our resilience. If we allow negativity to take over, it becomes easy to believe that we are stuck, that we are powerless. But if we choose to speak with courage, even when everything feels broken, we give ourselves the strength to rebuild. There is a reason why two people can go through similar hardships and come out with completely different lives. It is not because one was luckier than the other. It is because of the way they spoke to themselves in their darkest moments. Some people allow their struggles to define them, while others use their struggles to strengthen them. The difference lies in the conversation they have with themselves when no one else is around. Imagine a young boy who dreams of becoming an artist. Every time he picks up a pencil, he feels alive. But every time he shows his work, someone tells him it is not good enough. At first, he doesn't listen. He keeps drawing. But slowly, those voices start to become louder. He starts telling himself, maybe they're right. Maybe I'm not talented enough. Maybe I should stop trying. Eventually, he puts his pencil down and walks away from the dream that once made his heart light. Not because he wasn't talented, but because he allowed his self-talk to be shaped by the doubts of others. Now, imagine if instead he had told himself, I am learning. Every great artist started somewhere. I will get better. That one change in mindset could have been the difference between giving up and becoming something extraordinary. The way we talk to ourselves is often influenced by the world around us. If we have been surrounded by criticism, we start to internalize it. If we have faced rejection, we start to believe that we are not worthy. But at some point, we must decide whether we will continue carrying those voices or if we will replace them with our own. Because the truth is, no one's voice is more powerful in your life than your own. People can doubt you, but if you refuse to doubt yourself, you will keep moving forward. People can discourage you, but if you continue to encourage yourself, no setback will be permanent. Think about the way you speak to your closest friend. If they were struggling, would you tell them they are a failure? Would you remind them of every mistake they have ever made? Would you convince them that they are not capable? No. You would remind them of their strength. You would encourage them. You would tell them that they have what it takes to overcome whatever they are facing. So why don't you do the same for yourself? Why is it so easy to be kind to others, but so difficult to be kind to ourselves? It is time to start treating yourself with the same compassion that you show to the people you love. It is time to replace every self-doubt with self-belief. It is time to stop being your biggest critic and start being your greatest supporter. The world will always give you reasons to doubt yourself. There will always be challenges, obstacles, and moments where things don't go as planned. But what matters most is not what happens to you, it is how you choose to respond. And that response begins with the way you talk to yourself. Every great achievement in this world started with someone who believed in themselves. Every success story is built on the foundation of self-confidence and resilience. And every person who has ever overcome something difficult did so because they chose to listen to the voice that said, keep going, instead of the one that said, give up. You have that same choice. Every single day you have the power to decide what kind of voice will guide your life. You can let fear and doubt control you, or you can choose to speak to yourself with faith and determination. That decision, made in the quiet moments when no one else is listening, will shape your future in ways you cannot yet imagine.
Lassati mi scegli mele tu, un sul cascuria trairà. Mi dissi, vieni con me stasera, una sera che pari a magia, una cantina, che durava musto, lugori mio, gli incidetti tutto. Gira chiagnina lenta e sorda, e giro frasso che canta ancora, che non è vino rosso come fuoco, ambivio frasso, scordavo loco, manichini, dove speranza, da sta terra tutto danza. Prega Maria che faccio milico, mi persi su dai panni rossi, in c'era una croce fatta d'olivi, mi dai sopra senza scusa. Prega Maria, non sa ciucciù, se era morio era tabù. Ammuzzo tutto frasso, scioglieva cori come passo. Tu c'era notte in vento, con una luna appesa senza pentimento. Una voce mi chiamava tu funno, scendi ancora un perdi sto mondo. Da cantina il tempo si ferma, ogni goccia è storia eterna. Cutti a me lato, cutti a me cori, sti stiddi cacciato non mori. Scuro fora, ma luci dintra, a voci do, sempre mi senta. Prega Maria che faccio milico, mi persi su dai panni rossi, c'era una croce fatta d'olivi, mi dai sopra senza scusa. Prega Maria, un saccio giù, se era morio era tabù. Lassati mi scegli mele tu, ogni volta, ogni giornata, a ti attorno in ta cantina, con vino speranza e una picca rovina.